Good afternoon, Jason. I want to take a moment here and review the lesson we had the other day. When we take a look at the golf swing here, I think initially when we look at this lesson, it was almost a review or kind of a trying to take what we've learned so far and kind of take it to the next position or kind of get you going into that next position. So trying obviously just to simplify things and trying to get things into that better position and better thought here. Now, as we take a look at your golf swing here, and as we look here, this is where you were at the beginning of the session. Now, as we take it up, see you getting a good transfer, getting that weight back to that right side. One of the things to think about here in this case is you see how that, and I didn't pick it up when we went over in the lesson here, but when we take a look at this here, you see how that right knee kind of bows out just a hair? You know, what we want to think about is as we turn to that, is that almost that right leg. So as we turn into that right side, as we load up into this position, you know, we want to load up, you almost feel like that right leg stiffens up. We talked about that with the left side, but we didn't talk about it so much with the right. Now, as you think about this and as we look into this, I'm going to try to get someone here that I can show you here. Right here. Here's Sean O'Hare. You know, watch Sean as Sean turns back into this right side. You see as those hands go up into this position, you can see one of two things almost in this case. One, the length of our backswing obviously is still long, you know, and that's something we fought from day one. But I think it still kind of forms in that point that when that left shoulder gets to that left chin, that's ideally where we want to stop. Whereas we get here, and you kind of see how that right hand just continues to pull it back. So if we can keep it here, then we're in this position like we look on the right-hand side. You know, not necessarily does that left arm have to be straight. So as we see we get into this position, what we're initially looking at or what we're trying to find here is keeping that sense where initially the shoulders turn back to here, and we turn back. So as we make that turn up to the top, what we're wanting to see is, you know, maybe that being as far back as we'd initially like to see. So as we turn back into that position, you can almost watch Sean here as he does this. You can see how the hips slightly turn back and that right leg kind of straightens up and the left knee comes out. So in this case, when we look here, you can see because you go back further, that right leg gets bent even more. So if we can keep that right leg as straight as possible, you know, kind of feel that right knee kind of straighten up just a hair, then we'll feel that weight over that right side. So then as we go to come down, then all that right hand does is when it gets so long here, it just enters into another position to try to release the club a little early. There's that release there, and we turn down. So no matter how far we turn down and turn across, you know, trying to get you to turn out and swing out is ideally what we want to see or what we want to see you do here. So as we do this and as we look at this, one of the things we go forward and one of the things we kind of worked on, you know, ideally, that last position I had you turn back into was right here. You know, I had you literally take your head and place it up against a wall. And as you place it up against the wall here, what you see or what you feel here, ideally, is a stance, getting in your stance, being able to turn up. As you turn up here, you can feel you can't go back any further. That head staying in that same spot, you can see your right leg. Your right leg straightens up right here. Left knee comes back, transfers that weight back like we see. This is the position we want to see because as we go further along and as we see this, what we find or what we see, I'm trying to see if I didn't go behind you here. But initially as we see this, you know, this is the position I want you to turn back to. So as you turn back into it, you can feel the hands fall, feel that elbow come down in, that right hip. And everything moves together. You see how everything moves together here? That's what we're wanting to feel by having that center and having that position where we like to see it at. So, you know, what I'd like to see, at least if you can, do at least 15 to 20 swings just with that head right up against, you know, right up against a pole, right up against the wall, and just feel that swing back and forth. That way it allows you to feel that momentum and feel that position turn back and turn through. Because as you turn back and turn through in this position, you're going to start feeling a little bit better consistency or a little bit better position. Now, when I say a little bit better consistency, a little better position, this is what we see is we see the hands turn back, we see the club come down, we see the hands come through. Now, what we try to feel or what we try to work on is as we did this, without doing this, I had you put your feet back together. Same thing. If you look at this same position, you can see the hands come up to here, and that's all the furthest we want them to go. We come down, and I'll see right there. See that hand come out? Hands come out this way instead of coming down. And that's where I talked about here. We want to feel just a little bit of heaviness of the shaft as the shaft comes down. Feeling that position where we're coming down across it. Here, and you can kind of see how the hands and the clubs come down and across. And that's a position we try to avoid. If we can get here and feel the hands come down, that's where we're wanting to see here. You can almost see that right elbow come right out. And that's where I talked about at the beginning of the lesson was saying, hey, let's get that right elbow. That right shoulder. But if you look here, that right shoulder comes out this way, almost the same line as that pass, rather than almost feeling that right shoulder come down. So it's either one of two things. And whatever may work, that's what we want to find. What might work for consistency or what might work for transition. Now, when we look at consistency or transition, it's still going to be that same fault of trying to get the right elbow either to fall down or that right shoulder to come down. This is coming out. This would be coming down. And what we see here is the right shoulder and the right elbow coming down and through your position rather than coming out and across and over. That's what we're seeing there. All right. So as we go to the full swing then, this is back here. Try to feel that same position up, a little bit shorter swing, swinging from here. Kind of what we talked about and what we wanted to feel. That way that right leg straightens up. And there we go. All right. So as we look here, you can see that face being open. So you can see the hands kind of bringing it over, and there's your rotation. Your rotation is after the fact. So right about here, what I want to see, instead of almost feeling that right hand kind of flipping the club at it, because your hips are looking good, hips are coming down, the elbows coming down, but if that right hand and that right club kind of flip it and allow it kind of just that left back of that left hand to stay in its position, we don't see a rotation through. And since we don't see a rotation through, then we don't see the ball going out straight. We see that ball out to the right. Now, initially when we talked, and like what we discussed here, is if you do it nice and slow, keep it slow and right there, see the position come down, then you see the rotation. See the rotation come through and across. We'd almost still like to see. So what I would have you do, Jason, is I'd have you think about here, and this is something different or adding on to it, is I would tell you, let's add 2 poles right out here. And at this point here, what I want you to do is feel like you're swinging out towards those poles, and that ball has to go out this way between the poles. Not across, not to the left, not to the right, but out at that position. Now, what I gave you the thought and the sensation of doing is as you do this, this would be the ball, this would be a tee just up in front of it. If you swing down and swing across, that's out towards our target, and we see the rotation through. We want to see that position of the rotation through at the target. So as we see, we try to avoid hitting that inside tee and get you to feel like we're swinging out rather than that right hand kind of coming around, but almost feel like the club is coming out at the target rather than across. Okay? Now, Mr. Hardy, as always, if you have any questions, I know in a text we talked about, you said you keep it slow, you hit it right. You go fast, you hit it wrong. So that's still the biggest thing I would tell you. Let's keep it nice and slow. Keep the club going out towards the target. Keep that right leg being straight as we go back. Do 15 to 20 of those swings up against the wall. And just make that turn. All right. Any questions, sir, give me a call. You know the number, or shoot me an email, michaelwyattgolf@gmail.com. Thank you, sir.